Someone just said that. Was that magical power? Yeah. Doesn't usually ring. Yeah. Anyway. So good morning, everybody. And this is now, I was told, Thursday. So the days pass by. But then sometimes people say, oh my goodness, the retreat's going to end soon. Why does anybody think like that? Every day has 24 hours. Every 24 hours is, 1,440 minutes. And that is over 840,000 seconds. Or 84,000 seconds. Don't even think about it. It's a lot of seconds anyway. So you have many seconds to become fully enlightened. That's all it takes. So many chances. So don't worry about anything. I often tell people that the day or two before the retreat is about to finish, they've already got their bags packed. It's crazy. So don't pack your bags until the very, 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 very last minute. Actually, the very last second. Who knows what's about to happen? And anyway, my bags don't take much time to pack. There's nothing in them. So anyhow, one of the stories I wanted to tell this morning, a special story which I usually tell at every retreat about this time, a serious story, but I can't keep things serious too long, so I want to get it in quickly before I start thinking of a silly story to tell. And this is a story which I remember hearing from the Vajrayana tradition, or actually the outside of the story, and actually to adapt it, to giving more information about what meditation is and how to get into deep meditation. And there was a story of the 1,000-petal lotus. And it doesn't matter if you've heard it before, because there's still more things you can gather from hearing the story. I don't read anything out. I don't check what am I going to say before I say it. You let it come out so you can add and subtract things from it. And that particular story is understanding how a lotus, which is down the bottom over there, a lotus is a traditional image in Buddhism. Been there from the very start. And why do we plant lotus flowers over in Buddhist temples? There's many reasons. One of them is because the lotus can get germinated in the mud. And then, even though it gets germinated in the mud, it can actually grow through the mud, through the water, and eventually to the sunlight above the water. You can penetrate. Just like any one of us, born in sort of difficulties and born in trouble, nevertheless we can go through all of that and penetrate and come out through that water, that mud, and shine above the lake. One of the similes of the lotus I always like is that if the lotus is there in the garden, someone can poo on that lotus or urinate on it. And that lotus doesn't maintain the smell of that urine or poo. It just falls off it. The leaves are impermanent to such terrible smells. And if somebody pours, by accident or on purpose, some Chanel No. 5 over that lotus, the lotus doesn't absorb any of it, it just drips off. And I always remember that if people start criticizing me. They're like pouring urine over me. But then I think, I'm going to be like the lotus. it can all drip off. Or they pour Chanel number 5 over me. They've never done that. Please don't. Okay, it's the first silly story. And these are true stories. As a monk, you've got a reputation. A reputation you're supposed to protect, especially when you're a young monk. It doesn't matter so much these days because people know me and know that I'm a good monk. But this was a time over in Bunbury. I usually tell this story to every retreat, but I haven't done this story yet about when I spent the afternoon by Bunbury Beach. Good. So, I used to go and teach in the prison outside of Bunbury in the afternoon. And the only time to go there was just after lunch here, get on the train, go to Bunbury, and the people who were putting me up overnight was the Catholic parish house. They're very kind. I was very happy to go there to be able to find out how the Catholics work, the Catholic priests. So sometimes you stay there for a while, but I still remember when all the other priests had gone out and somebody was in a lot of difficulty, so they knocked on the door of the parish house looking for someone to give them some advice on death or something. When they saw me, they almost died themselves. They weren't expecting a Buddhist monk. And so when I told those priests what had happened, I said, look, if the doorbell rings, just stay inside, don't go out. It was a good fun. But anyway, in the afternoon, some afternoons, if it was a nice day like today, you'd go down to the beach. It wasn't a short walk away, and it was so quiet there. No one disturbed you. So I sat there to meditate. I did a 2-hour meditation usually. Get very, very peaceful by yourself. There's no people walking there or doing anything. And I meditated very peacefully for a couple of hours. Once those couple of hours were finished, I opened my eyes. And it was a kind of shock, because I saw there was somebody sitting on my left. There was somebody sitting on my right. And I took a look. Who was it? And sitting on my left was a 17-year-old blonde young girl in a bikini. On my right was another 17-year-old young girl, brunette, also in a bikini. On either side of me, these two beautiful young girls in bikinis sitting next to a monk on the beach. And I thought if there was anyone from Thailand with a camera and they took a photograph, I would never be able to explain that. But then, it was totally innocent, because what had happened, it was in November, and the reason I knew there were 17-year-olds was because they had just finished their last exam at high school. The last exam before they go to university. And of course, November, the last exam, they were celebrating. So they all got changed, and the guys were up in the surfing, and most of the women were there as well. But it's just these two were sitting next to me because they saw me sitting there perfectly quietly, perfectly peaceful, not responding at all to anything. And they wanted to know, how can you do this? Sit there for so long and not actually say anything or do anything. They were genuinely interested in meditation. That's why they're sitting next to me. And so they asked a few questions about meditation. I gave a few answers. I didn't speak for too long. You know why? I was scared. I'm being honest with you. And then I got up and left. And it's a totally honest story. You're always doing the best thing, and sometimes situations come along and you can't explain them afterwards. So anyhow, why did I start that story anyway? Oh yeah, meditation. Like, how do you meditate? What are the tricks? And even though I was saying that being a lotus, you can pour urine or whatever beautiful stuff on you, it doesn't stick to the lotus. It's a wonderful thing to remember when things go wrong in your life and you get criticized. But the other story, okay, no, please don't let me tell any more stories, okay? Only this one. It's in one of those books which I wrote, because sometimes it's nice talking about meditation, but what's the use of meditation? For ordinary people who are not really going to get enlightened, but they want to live a more peaceful life. And believe it or not, I told this story to that Sri Lankan president, Rajapaksa, the first one. He really liked it. He liked it so much that when he asked what am I doing in the afternoon, I said I was going to go and give a talk at the big centre BMICH in Colombo. He told one of his advisors, televise it. And the talk which I gave, which was televised, was the 1,000-petal lotus. But anyway, just beforehand, the story which I told to the president was of the donkey. I did say I gave a talk once about Buddhism and donkeys. They are used a lot, metaphorically, in Buddhism. So much so that even I told the president I've got to be very careful of not writing too many books. The reason is because this Zen monk told me a long time ago, anyone who writes a book has to spend the next 7 lifetimes as a donkey. I've written many books, so if you ever see a donkey with a funny sense of humour, you know who it is. But anyway, back to to what I told the president of Sri Lanka. Once upon a time, there was a donkey wandering in the forest, minding his own business. And as he was just going through the forest, he fell into a dry well. He fell to the bottom of that well. Fortunately, there's no water in it. But how can a donkey climb out of a well? That poor donkey was kind of trapped in this well. So what do donkeys do if they're trapped? They can't climb. So he just shouted, "E-oh! E-oh!" Why are you laughing? That's what donkeys do, isn't it? Okay, maybe my imitation of a donkey is not that good. E-oh! And eventually this farmer heard the noise. What is that? And he went to that dry well and saw in the bottom of the well with this, what he said was a stupid donkey. He should be more mindful, watch where he's going. But then the farmer thought, I never liked that donkey. And that well is a health hazard when it's dry. Anyone can fall into it. So to solve 2 problems, we never call this to kill 2 birds with the same stone? No. We cut 2 carrots with the same knife. That's a vegetarian option, instead of kill this. So he got out a spade and started shoveling dirt into that dry well to fill it up. First of all, the donkey thought, oh, someone's come to save me. But then, shovelful of shovelful fell over the donkey's back. And he realized this farmer was not trying to help him. This farmer was trying to kill him by burying him alive. So what did the donkey do? Ee-oh! 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 Even louder. And eventually the donkey went quiet. The farmer thought he'd buried the donkey alive already. Oh no. That donkey was much smarter than that. And many donkeys must be great authors in the past. And they're smart. Smarter than you think. So this donkey, he realized what was happening. He was being buried alive by this really evil farmer. And so what he did, he got this wonderful idea. The next shovelful of earth over the donkey's back, the donkey shrugged it off, with his feet stamped it in, and that donkey was 1 centimeter higher. Another shovelful of earth, shrugged it off, stamped it in, and it was higher again. It didn't take that long, because the farmer thought he'd killed the donkey, so didn't really pay much attention. Just kept on shoveling earth into the hole. And every shovelful of earth shrugged it off, stamped it in, and got higher. And soon that donkey was high enough. The farmer never saw this pair of ears come above the well. He wasn't paying attention. He got so high, he just jumped up, out of the well. It wasn't that far to jump anymore. And he banged the farmer on the back to teach him a lesson. The story which I read, that he had to, to bite the ASS of the farmer to show him that the donkeys are smarter than humans and could run away. I remember telling that to the president, Rajapaksa. He liked it so much. I said, because that's what happens to you. You're politicians. People will always throw dirt over your back. So don't complain. Shrug it off, stamp it in, and you're much higher to safety. He kind of liked that story. And that's why he asked me to give this talk on the 1,000-petal lotus on TV in Sri Lanka. As a point of interest, the Sri Lankans here, how many of you saw that? Oh, you did see that? One of you, that's all. Crikey, it's not popular, is it? And anyway, the story of the 1,000-petal lotus is popular because it's a beautiful simile. And it brings into context all the things I've taught you about meditation so far. At night time, a lotus is closed up. And if ever you look at the outermost petals of that lotus in the early morning, they're not fragrant, they're not beautiful. And if you look at them, they're actually like kind of corrugated texture. They're not smooth. They have to be like that because the outermost petals of those lotus, is it lotuses or loti? You can tell me later. Lotuses. And the outermost petals of the lotuses have to protect the petals inside. That's why they have to be thick, a bit of corrugated to give them some more strength. And they never got much colour at all. But when the first rays of the sun hit that lotus in the morning, you see the outermost petals open up first of all. And that reveals the next layer of petals, so they can receive the rays of the sun, so they can open up. And that means the next layer of petals can receive the rays of the sun, so they can open up too. Layer after layer after layer opens up in sequence as you go deeper into the lotus. And the deeper you go into the lotus, the more beautiful are those petals, the more fragrant, and the more profound they are, the thinner they are. Now that story is a beautiful simile of meditation. The rays of the sun represent awareness and kindness, the light and the warmth of the sun. With that awareness and kindness, you open up. Your outermost shell protects you from many of the dangerous and hurtful things of life. That's why I tell what you think is funny stories. So that's got nothing to do with Buddhism. My goodness, it has. Because that protects you from some of the criticisms and some of the harsh treatment which we all get in life. I already told one donkey simile. There's another donkey. Oh no, this is not donkey simile. This is a duck simile. You already heard that one story of the duck. Quack, quack. There's other two ducks swimming in a lake. One duck said quack. The other duck said, I was going to say that. Okay, at the end of the retreat, the worst joke which I said, you can take a vote on it. So anyhow, where was I with this? I don't know either. I must make a vow not to laugh at my own silly jokes. So we have to somehow avoid some of the problems of life. So that's why often, it doesn't matter who you are, the Sangha do tell little funny stories about life. So instead of getting upset and angry, you can laugh at these events of your life, which means it's much easier to let them go once you laugh rather than complain. I was taught that by my teacher, Ajahn Brahm. So many times there were mistakes, difficulties, and he would always think they were so funny. I think many of you know one of the mistakes which I made over as a young monk, and that was when I had to ask for some soap to have a shower. And I had to ask in Thai. Many of you have heard this story so much, there's one word in Thai you probably know now. What is the word for soap in Thai? Yeah, sabu, yeah. Where did you learn that word? And what's the word for pineapple? Very close, sapo. Not sabu is soap, sapo is pineapple. So I got it wrong. I love telling people of my mistakes, if you haven't noticed them yourself already. So I went up to Ajahn Brahm and said, please can I have some sapo? And he was a very kind monk. He looked at me and said, what do you want a pineapple for? To wash. And your reaction was so similar to Ajahn Brahm's reaction. And I never forgot the difference between those two words. Because he would tell everybody, these people in England are way more refined than us Thais. We just use soap to wash, they use pineapple. So that was a great way of teaching too. I never forgot that teaching when it made my teacher happy. And we made so many mistakes, all our Western monks. Sometimes people ask, why do you allow so many Westerners to come into your monastery? And he never answered, but I know why. We caused him so much humour, so much laughter with our silliness. Instead of getting upset, I always remember when I made a mistake, I made my teacher happy. Anyway, back to the thousand petal lotus. It opens up because of the kindness and the awareness you give. The warmth and light of the sun. And does it open up at a fixed rate? You can tell, 5 minutes, this is going to open up, another 5 minutes that will open up. You never know. All you can do is just watch, be aware, and be kind. The kindness is what many people miss. That's why it opens up really slowly. And the first thing which opens up, and you close your eyes, sit down, what occurs to you first of all? It has to be your body, how it feels. That's what we normally are aware of, the aches and pains or comfort in the body. I'm an old monk now. I told many of you 2 or 3 months ago I was 888 months. I mentioned 888 because we were making fundraisers for all these other monasteries. And I was doing a Singapore retreat on my birthday. And I know the number 888 is a very lucky number. Is that correct? Ajahn Brahm, you're just exploiting people. I admit it. It's for other monasteries, not for this one. So anyway, that as an old monk, you always have aches and pains. Have you ever looked at your body? Somewhere on here, if you ever look very carefully, you can see use by date. Haven't you got a use by date? Better before whatever time it is. So anyway, how can you actually get past those aches and pains in the body? Colds, fevers, cancers. I love telling about this because that's another problem which people face in their life, their health problems. And so many people are afraid of things like cancer. Sometimes it's not the disease kills people, the fear does. It makes you do things a sensible person would never do. So, when you sit down, you don't decide what you're going to do. Whatever is right in front of you is your meditation object. You're kind, you're in this moment. What do you see? The outermost petals of the lotus, your body. And it's fantastic. Just by doing that much, by observing the light of the sun and the warmth of the sun, it's amazing how your body relaxes. And when it relaxes, it allows that healing to happen. I told many people, about how cancer is overcome. And every year we have they used to be called the Cancer Support Association. 36 or 7 years later now, they come every year to Bodhinyana Monastery, listen to a talk, do some meditation. Every year I go to their place in Perth. I've been doing that regularly. And one year, the state government realized they were doing a really good job. So they gave them a few $1 million to upgrade their facilities. And when they upgraded their facilities, of course we had to have the Premier of West Australia at that time, that was Colin Barnett, to actually open the place. And I got this letter, Ajahn Brahm, can you be the second VIP to open the place? I said, I can't, I'll be the VIM. I can't refuse an opportunity to make a point, crack a joke. I'm a very important monk. And I said on one condition, that I had my little holy water bowl, and I said as long as I can bless the Premier of Western Australia, the two. He had no choice, he had to get wet. I did ask the security guards at the time, I didn't want to be arrested. Actually, I half wanted to be arrested, have a bit of peace and free time, go on a retreat in jail. But anyway, I blessed him as well, and the place. And I asked afterwards, why did you invite me? Why do you keep inviting me every year? He said, because this meditation works. It's out of respect, not for me as a person, but out of the teachings, which are really, really powerful. There are so many stories about that. So once you start to relax the body, that's when healing can happen. But it's so hard to relax. I told a story about the guy who couldn't breathe softly. I think I told that story already for you all. Did I? No. Okay, here it comes. One of the retreats which I gave over in Sydney. And when I was teaching that retreat, there was complaints the very first day. The complaint was, can you please teach people to breathe quietly? And there's not just one person asked that question, about 3 or 4 people asked that question. And then I said, look, it's my fault, I should have told you. The person who's making so much noise when he's breathing has this huge tumor in his sinuses. He hasn't been able to breathe through his nose, for months. He's dying of cancer. He's not even a Buddhist. He came here because he knew this meditation might be his last chance. So he gave it a go. So that's what he can do. And I must admit, all the people coming on that retreat, just like you would do the same, you are really compassionate and kind. From that time, no one complained at all. In fact, they offered words of support for him. And it was beautiful. He felt that he was accepted into this community, even though he didn't know anyone there, and that he wasn't even a Buddhist. But he kept on making a noise throughout the whole 9 days of the retreat. And at the last day, that was when, please remember, the last day is coming soon. You should stop getting excited, because all these great events happen on the last day. On the very last day of the retreat, on the last meditation, he was still making lots of noise, and I was getting in the car which was going to take me to Sydney Airport to come back to Perth, and he came running after me. Stop, please, Ajahn Brahm, stop. And he said, the last meditation is always the last meditation. He heard the popping sound. Pop. And he could breathe through his nose for the first time. But it closed up after 1 minute. And I thought that he'd left it too late. But that gave him confidence. And 6 months later, when I went to Sydney again on another event and another venue, this man came up to me and said, "Do you remember me?" Now please don't ever ask me that question. I see so many people, and as you get older, your brain becomes, it doesn't lose its memory, it becomes more efficient. But you do have your ways and means. So I said, "Oh yes, you're the man whose name I keep forgetting." He kind of laughed. And he said, "I was that man at that retreat who was dying of sinus cancer. Now look at me, I'm in full remission, it's totally gone. Just because of the meditation, nothing else. And I'm spending the rest of my life, however long I've got, teaching other people how to meditate, if they want to." And of course, when someone's dying of cancer, you look at them. When they go into remission and they get healthy again, you can't recognize them. That's almost a word of praise. But I say that story because it was just a meditation, nothing else worked. And that's one of the reasons why I got invited to this big society. And after I give teachings like that, of course people listen. I give examples. It actually works. Of cancer more than anything. So I told people, first of all, when you close your eyes, you can feel your body. Don't fight any bad feelings. That's not the way of Buddhism. We are very, very, very calm, non-violent, pacifist. That's what peace means. We go towards peace. They said, "Aren't you just losing the opportunity to do something about the cancer?" Quite the opposite. When you make peace with it, just like the sun just bathing the lotus in awareness and kindness, things open up, things relax and heal, and you find the difficulties and the problems to start to vanish. That's what happens. You don't fight the pain or the irritation. You learn from it, you let it be. That's why I think I mentioned earlier with mosquitoes. Ajahn Chah said, call them Ajahn mosquito. They're your teachers. Respect them. Respect the feelings in the body. And then you find you can get closer to them. You're not afraid of them. And when you get closer to them, you can kind of expand them, soothe them, allow them to, I would say to expand, relax to the max with pain. And it's crazy teaching, I must admit, but it works. And one of those times I had just a toothache, my toothache story. That toothache was stopping me sleeping. I couldn't even meditate because I didn't really know what meditation was as a young monk. You sat down, it hurt so much you couldn't watch your breath, you couldn't watch anything except the pain. And I tried everything I knew. Nothing worked. It's wonderful when your back's against the wall, you can't stand still, you can't go forward, you can't go backwards. What on earth do you do? That's when you have to innovate, try something you've never done before. And what I did, it was in northeast Thailand, there was no medications in the medicine cabinet. I found the medicine cabinet, big red cross in it. I don't know why I put the red cross, not a wheel or something. But anyway, red cross, medicine cabinet, there must be something in here. Open it up, it's totally empty. The cabinet was there, but there's nothing inside it. There's no telephone or what we're going to do now. And then the thing which I remembered, which really, really, really worked, was just the words, let go. I said, I've heard those words. You've heard those words as many times as I have, probably more. But now you did it. I'm not kind of saying this to boost myself. I've already been doing that for the last few days. But just say, what works? Just saying, let go. And that's what happened. You let go. I stopped fighting the pain. I've been trying for hours, nothing worked. So I let it be. And then I will never forget that experience, one of the first times you saw the power of wisdom. And that was, the pain disappeared immediately. It didn't just get less and less and less until it disappeared. It vanished. And it was replaced by bliss. Hopefully you've had those experiences. But what's really shocking is just how fast it changes. Just how quickly you're blissing out. And you're just confused as well. What on earth happened? But you never object. You're never disappointed. You're just kind of stunned. These are the experiential teachings. You can hear this said by me. When it actually happens to you, then you'll never forget it. And that will teach you how to go past this body, how to go past this level of petals and go inside, where the pain doesn't exist. And how simple that is, momentarily. So that's what you do with these layers of petals called your body. You just go inside of it. And inside the body, one of the first things, is the mental world. And inside that mental world, one of the first things is the present moment. That's why I listed those in that book about the methods of meditation, or anapanasati meditation. And the present moment, why on earth, why do you dwell so much in the past? One of the things about the past is it's always selected, filtered. You don't see the whole past. It's too great for you to encompass. You just take parts of it. And I've noticed, if you're in a bad mood, you select all the negative things. It's absolutely crazy. This is not the first time you said this, Ajahn Brahm. Why do people do that? That just makes the pain, either the emotional pain or the physical pain, worse. Instead, look at the good things which are going on. The 998 good bricks in the wall, rather than the 2 bad bricks which you've laid. And each one of you are really good people. Otherwise, you could never get in here. You can keep precepts. You do keep precepts. You're kind to one another. Can you please remember that, rather than always remembering your faults? When I say, can you remember the faults? Oh yeah, I can remember those. But why do we ignore the good stuff which we do in our life? It's absolutely crazy. So once you start to remember the good stuff in your life, you can let go of the past very easy. It's one of those questions people have asked me many times recently. They say, yeah, I know you're supposed to let go. How do you let go? Please give us some instructions. How do I let go? And how you let go is, first of all, remembering all the good stuff you've done. Do that first. And it's easy to let go. If you remember all the bad stuff, you've got things to do and I can't let go yet. Remember all the good stuff first. The happiness. And then you can let go easy. So then you don't worry about the future. That's even more crazy. How many of you are worried what's going to happen to you next week? This year? Do you know what that is? Of course you haven't got a clue what's going to happen to you. I remember when I first came to Perth, there was a very good possibility. I think Margaret Thatcher was the Prime Minister of the UK. Ronald Reagan, I think, was the President of US. We all thought it was going to be a nuclear war. So much so that the monk who was senior to me, Ajahn Brahm, he was really concerned about a nuclear war. So he read somewhere that if you drink miso soup in the morning, that will actually protect you, from the fallout. I thought it was a crazy idea, but to get some nice miso soup to drink in the morning, it made sense to me. Just out of greed. So for about a year, we ate miso soup, and I never argued about it. I was very obedient, because I liked it. Was there a nuclear war? No, you can never predict things. That's why when you'd ask Ajahn Chah, what's going to happen in the future? He said, I can predict the future. The future is uncertain. He was always correct. Amazing, his great wisdom to be able to predict the future. It's going to be uncertain. No one knows. The future is work in progress. You can't know. So because of that, that's one of the reasons is why that we learn how to be in the present moment more. It's so easy to do, just be here now. Enjoy this moment. You're in a beautiful place. I think you should appreciate this retreat centre by now. Really good food, nice comfort. You can go into your own room whenever you want. Many places like this, they are so gorgeous and beautiful. The only bad thing about them is the bill you get when you have to leave. You don't get any bill here. That's one of the beautiful things that we have in our retreats. They're for free. How many other places in the world like that? Buddhist retreat centres usually are free. They say, Ajahn Brahm, you still got to pay the electricity, you got to... The food you eat, is that delicious? How much does that cost you? But what you do, all of those people who come and make that food for you and bring it here, please, when you see them, say thank you. And that inspires you. All those people who bring food, other times they come on a retreat here and other people bring food for them. It just makes the retreat at a different level. It runs on kindness, on generosity. Even the people who make the food for you are being generous. And you're being generous. The next time your turn to make some food for whoever's on retreat here, it's a beautiful little way of doing things, and no money is involved, except when they have to go to the shop and buy something. I know that, please, there's some very hard workers here, and sometimes they say, oh, but can you make a contribution for the food? You don't need to. I shouldn't say this, they get into trouble with them. There's enough money in the bank. So just see what you want and eat it and enjoy it. But don't waste it. It's all done, don't think of money. So because of that, you can stay in this present moment. You don't have to fear at all. You don't have to keep carrying the past. You're totally free. Imagine to really get your head into that. You know that delicious, I don't know what food they're going to bring me at monastery to do. Actually we do, don't we? Because we're just talking about that at breakfast time, that there is a lady who always comes on Thursdays, a Desi, and she always makes the same soup on Thursdays. So I'm pretty sure what I'm going to be eating today. How much does she charge? $0. She does that just for the joy and the happiness. I'm not sure, but I suspect, and I think it's true, other people give her contributions as well. Please, an extra few dollars here or there so she can make food for the monks. It's never one person, it's always a group effort. They don't let me know. I don't need to know, to see people's happiness and joy. And that's what you're eating. You're like a monk or a nun. You're eating the dana of people who, they've got their own life to live. They get up early in the morning, they're cooking, they're already cooking, actually they're bringing it here by now, and the best food they can possibly get for you. And that just makes me it's kind of happy. I don't feel obliged. I think this is a beautiful system of supporting each other. And I know it always works. So that means that I'm happy to be in this moment. This moment is a happy place to be. Content, easily satisfied. It's beautiful. And because it's food given as dana to you, so it's okay for a monk, monks get used to that, but for you, it's beautiful. And so that makes the food more delicious, more pure. And the next thing is it makes it so much easier to be here. And after a while, the next stage, you go into the next layer of petals. These petals of time are opening up. You go past the future, past the past, and you're in this moment. It's a much more beautiful place to be. And you don't have any worries here. All of your thoughts, they're usually plans. They're always, just trying to fix the past so it doesn't happen again. You've got nothing to fix up. So you are light-hearted. You got into that layer of petals called present moment, and then silence. One of the ways of getting into that silence is to appreciate, why do you need to talk? Every time I get to explaining this part of meditation, I feel guilty when I'm talking. Sometimes over in Nolamara, I just get to the point, sorry, I can't speak anymore. Let's do some meditation. I'm on it, being honest. Because you can taste the silence. It's much more beautiful. You're going, layers of petals called words trying to describe things open up. And inside those layers of petals, inside that, the silence is far more delightful, far more beautiful. It's not just the colours, which, it's only a metaphor, the colours, but when you go deep into the lotus, the colouring is far more profound, far more beautiful, and the scent is kind of overwhelming. The silence, and you don't want to disturb it. Sometimes people call it like the holy silence. I don't know why you call it holy, but it's just you respect it naturally. It's something gorgeous and something which is like a default state of the world. It's not something you make. It's not something somebody else makes. It's just there. And you really get into it. And after a while, even if you come out from just that state, a huge number of benefits. All the problems in the world come from trying to assess and judge, trying to describe things. I think I mentioned already the stars at night. A couple of you, I've seen you looking up at the stars. Well done. I used to know the names of all those stars. I was a theoretical physicist. I deliberately forgot them. They look so much more beautiful when you don't know their names. I think that's probably one of the reasons why I deliberately forget many of your names. You don't need to know names. You know me, I've seen you many times. Why do you want to confine a person into a description of a name? Who are you? And I must admit, I do remember my own name. I had some great fun with it. This once, many years ago, I was on a phone call to someone and said, "Oh, can I have your name, please?" I said, "Brahm." How do you spell that? Because when you're silent, you're innovative. I said, well, it's a B for Buddhist, R for Roman Catholic, A for Anglican, H for Hindu, and M for Muslim. And it was about an interfaith conference, so they liked that idea. Okay, you're invited. Please, I apologize to J for Jewish. I couldn't fit that one in. But it's amazing when you have free enough to not to be fixed to a name, that you can actually play around with it. So anyhow, you go deeper in, past the silence. What happens next? Silence is not the end of things. Silence is just the beginning. How many people can even say that? They think that silence is deep enough for them. Please don't be scared. Because as you go deeper inside the silence, you know what? This is what happens to me. Inside the silence, I become aware of my breath. Everything else has disappeared. And all I've got left is this beautiful breath. And when you wait until that silence is pretty much established, your breath is always really pleasant. Sometimes people say it's hard to watch the breath. It's not hard to watch the breath. You haven't learned how to do that yet. When you start to be able to, just the breath is literally coming to you, and you just watch. Nothing else to do, nowhere to go, and it is beautiful. Sometimes people always question me on that beautiful breath, and that beauty is what you see. So some time ago I kind of changed the description just because to make people happier, to delightful breath. I don't care what you call it, it just appears to be very attractive. So attractive, you can't take your attention away. It's not you stick your attention onto it. The breath grabs you, but not violently, of course. You just love being there. Just love watching your breath come in, go out. And what a beautiful thing that is. It's not done through any glue. It doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to apply some super glue, my attention to my breath. It's a natural being with your breathing. You can't take your attention away. You don't want to. And of course, is that the end of the breath meditation? No way. because your lack of effort, very often when I say you don't need any effort to these stages of meditation, people think, oh, you're just lazy, you go to sleep. No way. You're having the time of your lives. I never say time of your life, always time of your lives. Enjoy the meditation to the max. And that's why afterwards you can tell that people have at least reached that stage by looking at their mouth. They've got a stupid grin on their face. Have I got a stupid grin on my face most times? At least if you see one, that's where it comes from. And so you get a beautiful enjoyment of just being with the breath. And because you're not doing anything, you don't need much breath. The breath gets slower, softer, until it gets to the point you can't make any distinction between the in-breath and the out-breath. It's just breath, that's all. And that is not to be feared, that's nature. And then after you get to that, the breath is so delightful, because you can't see any distinction, beginnings or ends. It disappears. You lose your awareness of the breath. Is that bad? You experience it. No way! You're just going deeper into the lotus, past the petals dealing with breathing, into the petals dealing with the mind. Just like I said, the aircraft, as its task finished, it's got you to the airport. The car has brought you from the airport to the monastery or the retreat center. Your shoes are taking you to the entrance to this hall. You take your shoes off to get in the hall. The breath has done its job. From the physical feeling of the breath to the mental experience of the breath, and even the mental experience has gone to a different place, much more profound, much more happy, much more stable too. You go into those layers of petals of the breath have opened up, and you're inside of that. And this is helpful because what are you doing all this time? Being aware and being kind, that's all. So simple instructions. You go inside of the breath. The next stage of meditation is always inside the stage you're experiencing right now. It's not over there. You never get rid of this stage, you just go deeper into it. Which is a beautiful description, because you never sort of do anything. And after a while, many people have the problem, they're kind of aware of the breathing, but it's very, very refined, it's almost disappearing, and they can see just what's inside of it, which is, of course, that nimitta. This is when that nimitta really gets strong. And they wonder, what should I do? Should I go back to the breath or go into the nimitta? What should you do? And the answer is, don't do anything. Be patient and let it happen. And I say that because so many people are backseat drivers. Some of you may be just chopping up vegetables in the kitchen while somebody else is cooking the food. And you can't help but tell them, no, don't do it this way, do it that way. It's nature. There is probably a word of that in psychology. It's just that whenever we observe, we want to get involved in. It's wonderful just to be able to not be a backseat driver, but or be a backseat cook. Just sit down there and give kindness and see what happens. That's what happens with the breath. You don't say, no, okay, now's the time to go to nimittas. I've got to get to nimittas. If you really want to get into nimittas, shut up. And just let it happen. Don't make it happen. And then you go very deeper in. The happiness keeps on increasing. If it's the right time, the breath will go out onto the edges and disappear. You just have the beautiful lights inside. So then what do? You've got to go inside of them. Stay with them, let them be, don't do anything. Just be aware and be kind. Ah, poor nimittas. So many people control you. So many people get excited or afraid. And you're just being a nimitta, that's all. You're helping people. Why on earth do people get afraid of you? You're not dangerous at all. So after a while, you let them be. With kindness and awareness, that's all. Eventually they become solid. And then, what do? If you get to that stage, my goodness, you're blissing out. If you get to this stage of meditation now, see the beautiful nimittas and the beautiful ones, you won't be at the table for lunch. Sometimes, who wants lunch? Compare these beautiful nimittas. Oh. So, the world gets further away from you. And then, when you see these beautiful nimittas, what happens next? Those layer of petals called nimittas, so incredibly fragrant, so beautiful, opens up and you go inside. And that's a beautiful description of a first jhana. Even more happiness than you've felt before. And you can't be aware of the world outside. Someone might say, hey, it's time for lunch. Open your eyes, you're going to miss lunch. A lot of time you can't hear them. If you do hear them, you're not interested. And you go deeper, and it's even more blissful. More things are disappearing. And then what happens? What happens is, I go over time, I don't care. If I can't finish the interviews, I'll finish them quickly. So the next thing what happens, you go inside the nimittas, inside the first jhana, right inside the center of the first jhana is the second jhana. This thing we call vitaka vichara vanishes. And now you know what that vitaka vichara was. It's amazing just how many people sit around a coffee table or in front of a lectern at a university to discuss the real meaning of vitaka vichara. You don't discuss this. You allow it to disappear, now you know what it is. Just like, the donkey, not the donkey, the tadpole getting out of the water. Now that tadpole knows what water was, because it's disappeared. And so it knows what vitaka vichara is, that vanishes. Now you really are still. And then afterwards you look, what else has vanished? I said this already, your will. Sorry, that was a mistake. Your will. It never did belong to you. But it's been there since the day you were born and before. You kind of assume that's who you are. Or at least that's part of you. Just imagine that vanishes totally for hours. You're still aware. There's no will. That's one of the reasons why when people have those experiences and they don't know much about Buddhism, maybe like those Christian medieval priests, you know what they call that? Union with God. Why do they say that? Because their will is gone. They're not doing anything. They're fully aware, blissing out, but they're not in control of anything. If you've been brought up as a Christian, that's what you would say. So that's not the end of things either. Then eventually, that layer of petals opens up, you go deeper inside. And deeper inside of that, it's your experience of the bliss starts to disappear. To a more refined bliss. That which we call piti. I'm not going to give it a translation because no translation makes sense to me. And you're left with what's called sukha. Again, meditators who teach meditation try to make a distinction. What actually is piti? What is sukha? And years ago I said the two nearly always come together. can't experience piti without sukha, except in that third jhana. You just got sukha, the piti is vanished. Now you're competent to describe what piti is. And then what happens? You go inside of that. It's like a room within a room within a room. Always going outside the outside shell, into the next layer of shell, going into that and into that. And you get to the fourth jhana. What is that? It's that equanimity. To me that's just, it doesn't fit. Equanimity, yeah, it has meaning, but you're blissing out like hell now. I can't say it, blissing out like hell. Intensely. It's that equanimity, but nothing is moving. Really still, incredibly still. And interestingly, the way the Buddha described this is where the mindfulness reaches its peak. This is the most intense, pure mindfulness you can ever experience in the fourth jhana. What about the immaterial attainments coming afterwards? Aren't they more mindful? No. In the fourth jhana, the mindfulness is not interrupted at all. It's really powerful. It's interesting. I just looking for how to describe these things. Mindfulness increases intensely like hell. Why do I say those words, like hell? Because we don't have the language, adequate language, in these deep states. But what happens next? As you go deep inside, it's always more beautiful. But then what? Something else is disappearing. You know what's disappearing? Will has already stopped. Your mindfulness is disappearing now. Knowing is disappearing. The mind is turning off. It's pretty radical. First your will disappears, then your mind disappears, vanishes. The objects of the mind get more refined, and then the mind goes. It's called cessation. And the deeper you go, the more happier it is. Is there any happiness in cessation? Even that stopped. That's the most beautiful thing you could experience. Someone asked, I think it was Sariputta in the suttas, how can you say that's happiness when you're not experiencing anything? And he gave this beautiful simile, like someone who's sick. When the sickness vanishes, don't you feel happy? The more that things vanish, the more you understand the nature of things, the more happiness there is. That's why even the Buddha used to say, Nibbānang paramang sukhang. The cessation, that's what Nibbāna means, is the ultimate happiness. It's just that you didn't really understand what happiness meant. So after a while, you go deep into that lotus, right into its very center. And in its very, very center of the lotus, you get to what, good on the Vajrayanas, I don't know if this is what they meant, but what they said was true. That, what's that word again? The jewel in the heart of the lotus. Do you know what that jewel in the heart of the lotus is? There's nothing. There's nothing. There's emptiness. Real emptiness. Nothing there. Thank you for listening. Did you understand that? No, you didn't. There's enough seeds there to make you interested. The lotus simile is great. Always going in. Never going on. Going in. Oh, and by the way, I didn't mean to answer that question, which I put aside for last night. Nissaggiya Pajitya 14. There's the reason I got a bit confused. Nissaggiya Pajitya is just the type of offences in the monks' rules of offences. It's a 14th rule in the section called Nissaggiya Pajitya. I was a bit confused because I got the wrong rule. My mistake. I like making mistakes and telling people so you can laugh. It's Nissaggiya Pajitya 5. So if ever you want to have a look at that, the 5th rule for the monks in Nissaggiya Pajityas. The other details I got okay. But anyway, you don't really need to worry about that unless you're really interested. I think just a 1,000 petal lotus is much more interesting.